My family demanded I gift my $350,000 condo to my sister as a wedding present. Hi everyone! Today's story will blow your mind, but really quick, if you enjoy this content, hit that subscribe button. Channel's been a bit quiet lately, and your support keeps it all going. Let's jump in. Original post. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but I need perspective from strangers because my world has been turned upside down. I'm a 30-year-old data analyst who's worked my way up from entry-level positions since graduating 8 years ago. 5 years ago, after living with roommates and eating instant ramen more times than I care to remember, I finally saved enough for a down payment on a 2-bedroom condo in a decent neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it's mine, or at least, I thought it was. Last Sunday, my parents invited me over for what they called an important family discussion. My younger sister was there with her fiancé, both looking expectant. I should mention that my sister is 26 and works as an event coordinator at a high-end venue downtown. She's always been the creative one, the social butterfly who knows everyone and gets invited to everything. Her fiancé works in marketing at a startup. My mother started the conversation with her trademark dramatic flair. She talked about how family means everything, how we support each other through thick and thin. My father nodded along, occasionally adding comments about stepping up and doing the right thing. I genuinely had no idea where this was heading until my mother dropped the bomb. We've all discussed it, and we think the perfect wedding gift from you would be your condo. You can deed it over to your sister and her husband-to-be. Newlyweds need stable housing to start a family properly. I actually laughed. I thought it was a joke. The room went silent, and I realized they were serious. My sister was already scrolling through her phone, showing me Pinterest boards of how she'd redecorate her place. Her fiancé was talking about the home office he'd set up in the second bedroom. When I found my voice, I asked what they expected me to do for housing. My father waved his hand dismissively. You're single, you make good money. You can rent a studio somewhere. Maybe this will motivate you to find someone and settle down properly instead of just focusing on spreadsheets all day. The conversation devolved from there. When I said absolutely not, my mother accused me of being selfish. My sister started crying, saying I was ruining her chance at happiness. Her fiancé muttered something about family values. My father said I was ungrateful after everything they'd done for me growing up. Here's what kills me. I paid for my own college education through scholarships and loans. I've been financially independent since 22. Meanwhile, my parents paid for my sister's entire education at a private art school, bought her a car for her 21st birthday, and have been supplementing her rent because creative fields don't pay well initially. They're not even offering to buy me out. They literally expect me to gift a $350,000 property that I've been paying the mortgage on for 3 years. When I pointed out the financial insanity of this request, my mother said, "You can't put a price on family. Your sister needs this more than you do." The thing is, my sister is planning a 300-person wedding at the venue where she works. She gets a discount, but we're still talking about a $75,000 event. When I asked why they don't use that money for a house down payment instead, she looked at me like I'd suggested she get married in a paper bag. "This is my one special day," she said. "I've been planning this since I was 12. I left without agreeing to anything, and now my phone won't stop buzzing. Extended family members are reaching out, having heard some version of the story where I'm the heartless brother who won't help his sister start her married life properly. My aunt called me crying, saying she never thought I'd turn out so cold. My grandmother left a voicemail about how, in her day, family took care of family. I'm sitting in my condo right now, in the living room I painted myself, looking at the kitchen where I taught myself to cook real meals, and I can't believe this is happening. 5 years of saving, of sacrificing, of carefully building something stable, and they want me to just hand it over because my sister decided to get married? Am I losing my mind here? Is there some cultural context I'm missing? We're a middle-class American family with no particular tradition of property transfer I'm aware of. This feels insane, but the fact that everyone seems to be against me is making me question everything. Update 1, 2 weeks later. Thank you to everyone who responded to my original post. Your comments gave me the confidence boost I desperately needed. Special shout-out to those who recommended the book Emotional Blackmail. I downloaded it immediately and have been reading it during my commute. Something unexpected happened at work this week. My mentor, a senior director I've worked with for 4 years, noticed I seemed distracted during our quarterly review. She asked if everything was okay, and something about her genuine concern made me crack. I gave her the abbreviated version, expecting professional distance, but her response surprised me. "I need you to understand something," she said, leaning back in her chair. "What you're describing is financial abuse. Full stop. It's not normal, it's not acceptable, and it's not your responsibility to enable it. She then shared her own story. 15 years ago, her parents tried to guilt her into co-signing a business loan for her brother's third failed venture. When she refused, they didn't speak to her for 2 years. "Best 2 years of my life," she said with a wry smile. When they finally came back, it was with respect for my boundaries. She offered to role-play the conversation with me. At first, I felt ridiculous, but she insisted. She played my family members while I practiced different responses. When she screamed at me, playing my mother, I broke down laughing at the absurdity. But it helped. We worked on key phrases. "I understand you're disappointed, but my decision is final. Your financial planning is not my responsibility. I'm not discussing this further. If you continue to pressure me, I'll need to limit contact." She also pointed out something I hadn't considered. "Your sister is 26, not 16. She's an adult who's choosing a $75,000 party over a house down payment. That's her choice, but choices have consequences." Armed with this new perspective and practiced responses, I invited my parents to lunch at a neutral location, a quiet restaurant downtown. I didn't tell them my sister couldn't come. I specifically requested just the three of us. They arrived expecting capitulation. My mother had even brought paperwork she'd downloaded about property transfers. I let them settle in, ordered our food, and then spoke clearly and calmly. "I want to be very clear. I will not be giving my condo to my sister. This is not up for discussion or negotiation. I understand you're disappointed, but this is my final decision." My father immediately launched into a tirade about family values. I used one of the phrases I'd practiced, "I value family, which is why I'm here having this conversation instead of just cutting contact. But valuing family doesn't mean accepting financial exploitation." The word exploitation hit them like cold water. My mother actually gasped. "How dare you suggest we're exploiting you? You're asking me to give away my largest asset, worth $350,000, while offering nothing in return and using emotional manipulation to pressure me. What would you call it?" The conversation went downhill from there, but I stayed calm. When my mother started crying, I handed her a tissue but didn't cave. When my father said I was no longer welcome at family gatherings, I said that was his choice and I'd respect it. When they threatened to write me out of their will, I pointed out that I'd never counted on an inheritance anyway. The lunch ended with them leaving in anger, my father throwing cash on the table for their meals. I sat there for another hour, shaking but proud of myself. The waiter, who'd clearly overheard some of it, brought me a free dessert and said, "Good for you, man." My sister has been texting me increasingly hostile messages. Yesterday, she sent me a photo of a baby outfit with the message, "This could have been your nephew's, but you clearly don't care about family." I didn't respond. My phone has been quieter since I started blocking extended family members who felt entitled to weigh in. My grandmother is the only one I haven't blocked, though I did send her a respectful message explaining that I wouldn't discuss the matter further. The strangest part? I'm sleeping better than I have in years. There's something liberating about standing up for yourself, even when it costs you. My mentor was right. Their reaction to my boundary tells me everything about how they view me, not as a person, but as a resource to be exploited. Update 2, 6 weeks later. Life has been interesting since my last update. The family situation escalated before it got better, though better might be too strong a word. More like different. My sister's wedding planning has intensified. She's been posting constantly on social media about her dream wedding and how she's overcoming obstacles to create her perfect day. Several mutual friends have reached out to me privately after hearing her version of events, where I'm the villain who refused to help his baby sister have stable housing. I've been taking the high road and simply saying, "There's more to the story, but I wish her the best." 3 weeks ago, something shifted. My sister's future mother-in-law reached out to me. This was unexpected. We'd only met a handful of times at family gatherings. She invited me for coffee, and curiosity got the better of me. She's a real estate agent, turns out, and she was direct. "I heard about the condo situation. I wanted you to know that I told my son it was completely inappropriate to expect such a gift. I'm frankly embarrassed they participated in that ambush." She revealed that she'd offered to help them look for affordable starter homes, even suggested using her connections to get them a better rate, but my sister had turned her down flat. She says anything less than 1,800 square feet in the right neighborhood would be settling, she said, shaking her head. They can't afford that on their salaries, even with a reasonable down payment. More interesting was what she said next. "My son is starting to have second thoughts. Not about marrying your sister. He loves her, but about the financial pressure. They've already put $30,000 on credit cards for deposits they can't really afford. He mentioned maybe scaling back the wedding, and your sister had what he called a complete meltdown. I thanked her for the information but made it clear I couldn't get involved. She understood and said she just wanted me to know not everyone thought I was the villain here. A week after that coffee, my workplace mentor invited me to a networking event. It was there I met another data analyst who'd gone through something similar with his family. We ended up talking until the venue closed, and he introduced me to a support group for people dealing with toxic family dynamics. I've been attending virtually, and it's been eye-opening hearing other stories. Through the support group, I've learned about concepts like financial enmeshment and golden child/scapegoat dynamics. Looking back, the patterns were always there. My sister's achievements were celebrated lavishly while mine were acknowledged with, "That's nice, dear." Her struggles were met with immediate financial support. Mine were character-building opportunities. 2 weeks ago, my employer announced a major project I'll be leading, a career-defining opportunity with a significant raise. I didn't tell my family. Instead, I celebrated with my mentor and my new friend from the support group. It felt strange but good to share success with people who were genuinely happy for me without calculating what it meant for them. My parents have maintained radio silence except for one group family text where they announced that, due to recent family changes, they'd be hosting Thanksgiving at my sister's apartment instead of their house as usual. The subtext was clear: I wasn't invited. I responded with a thumbs-up emoji and booked a trip to visit a college friend instead. Update 3, 4 months later. The wedding is in 2 months, and the family drama has reached telenovela levels. I found out through social media, where else, that my sister had started a GoFundMe for her dream honeymoon to Bora Bora. The description included a thinly veiled reference to family members who could help but choose not to, and asked friends and strangers to support young love. It raised $500 in 3 weeks before she quietly took it down. More significantly, I had an unexpected encounter with my father at a hardware store. I was buying supplies for a bathroom renovation, a small upgrade I'm doing myself with YouTube tutorials, when we literally ran into each other in the plumbing aisle. The moment was awkward, but something in his expression looked different. Tired, maybe. He asked how I was, and I gave a polite, generic answer. Then he said something that shocked me: "Your mother doesn't know I'm telling you this, but we had to take out a home equity loan to help pay for the wedding. Your sister, she's very persuasive when she wants something." I didn't know how to respond, so I just nodded. He continued, "I've been thinking about what you said. About exploitation. I don't agree with that word, but..." He trailed off, looking at the copper fittings in his hand like they held answers. "Just be careful with your renovation. These old buildings can have unexpected problems." It was the closest thing to an olive branch I'd get from him, delivered in the language of home improvement. I thanked him for the advice and we parted ways. I haven't told anyone about this encounter until now. Meanwhile, through the professional grapevine, I heard that my sister's workplace is concerned about her using company resources for personal wedding planning. Apparently, she's been treating the venue's vendor relationships as her personal wedding planning network, pushing for deeper discounts and freebies because I bring them so much business. Her boss had to have a formal conversation with her about boundaries. The silver lining in all this has been my own growth. The raise from my new project leadership role allowed me to pay off my car loan early. I've also started dating someone I met at a professional development workshop, someone who was impressed that I own my own place and have my life together, not someone who sees me as a resource to be tapped. She knows the situation with my family, and her perspective has been refreshing. It's bizarre that they think you owe your sister a house just because she decided to have an expensive wedding. Would they expect you to buy her a car if she decided she wanted a Lamborghini? Last week, my sister's maid of honor, who I've known since high school, reached out. She was careful with her words, but the message was clear: the wedding planning has become a nightmare. My sister has had 3 different emotional breakdowns over things like the shade of napkins and the font on place cards. 2 bridesmaids have already dropped out, citing personal conflicts. "I'm worried about her," she said. "This obsession with the perfect wedding. It's like she thinks if the wedding is perfect enough, it'll prove something. I don't know what, but something." I suggested gently that this wasn't my problem to solve, and she agreed but said she needed someone to know what was really happening behind the Instagram posts. Update 4, 6 months later. The wedding happened last weekend. I wasn't there, obviously, but I've pieced together what happened from various sources. The event was, by all accounts, spectacular. My sister achieved her dream of a 300-person elaborate affair with flowers flown in from Ecuador, a 7-piece band, and a champagne tower. The photos on social media look like something from a luxury wedding magazine. She wore a $12,000 dress and smiled radiantly in every shot. What the photos don't show is that my parents had to take out a second loan. Her new in-laws covered the bar costs as a wedding gift after the couple's credit cards were maxed out, and 2 vendors threatened to pull out the week before when payments were late. My father's hardware store encounter makes more sense now. He was probably buying supplies to fix things himself to save money. But the real story began 3 days after the wedding. My sister texted me, "Can we get coffee? Just us." I almost deleted it. But something, curiosity, maybe, or the memory of the little sister who used to beg me to read her bedtime stories, made me agree. We met at a small cafe nowhere near our usual neighborhoods. She looked different. Not just tired from the wedding, but deflated, somehow. The first thing she said was, "I need to apologize. Not for Mom and Dad to forgive me, not to get anything from you. My therapist said I need to apologize for me." Turns out, she'd started seeing a therapist 2 months before the wedding when the stress was causing panic attacks. Her husband had insisted after finding her crying in their bathroom at 3 a.m. over ribbon colors. The therapist asked me why the wedding had to be so perfect, she said, stirring her latte obsessively. I couldn't answer at first. Then I realized. I thought if I had the perfect wedding, it would mean I'd won somehow. Won what? I don't know. Mom's complete attention? Proof that I'm the successful one? It sounds so stupid saying it out loud. She told me about the morning after the wedding, still in their hotel suite, when her new husband had shown her their financial reality on a spreadsheet. They were $85,000 in debt from the wedding alone. His parents had offered to help them with a house down payment instead of the wedding bar tab, but she'd insisted on the party. He looked at me and asked, "Was it worth it?" And the horrible thing is, I don't know. Everyone says it was beautiful, but all I remember is being terrified something would go wrong. The conversation got deeper from there. She admitted that she'd always felt like she had to be the performer, the perfect one, because academic achievement, my strength, was clearly valued less in our family than social success. You got straight A's and Mom would say, "That's nice," and change the subject to my theater performance. I got the message pretty clearly about what mattered. She revealed that our parents had been pressuring them to start trying for a baby immediately to make the investment in the wedding worthwhile, as our mother put it. The idea of bringing a child into their current financial disaster was causing serious strain on the marriage. They were in couples counseling now, learning to communicate about money and make decisions together rather than her steamrolling with what she wanted. The therapist asked me to think about what kind of childhood our kids would have if we were constantly stressed about money, constantly fighting, constantly trying to keep up appearances we couldn't afford. It made me realize I was recreating Mom's pattern. Looking successful was more important than being stable. Then came the part that really got to me. When everyone was pressuring you to give me your condo, part of me knew it was wrong. But I wanted it so badly. Not just the condo, but the symbol of it. Like if you gave it to me, it would mean I was worth that sacrifice. The therapist called it external validation seeking, and apparently, I've been doing it my whole life. She told me that in counseling, they'd been working on living within their means. They'd created a strict budget, cut up all but one emergency credit card, and were considering a second job each to pay down the wedding debt. Her husband had suggested they sell the designer items they'd received as gifts to make a dent in the debt, and she'd agreed. We might have to move in with his parents for a year to save money, she admitted. The irony isn't lost on me. I could have had a modest wedding and bought a small place, or I could have the spectacular wedding and live with my in-laws. I chose the show. When our coffee was getting cold, she said something that surprised me. "I'm glad you didn't give me the condo. I know that sounds weird, but if you had, I never would have had to face any of this. I would have kept living in this fantasy where things just worked out for me, where someone always rescued me from my choices. The wedding debt is horrible, but it's forcing me to grow up in a way Mom and Dad never made me." We talked about our parents then, really honestly for the first time. About how Mom's obsession with appearances came from her own mother's criticism, how Dad enabled it because conflict avoidance was easier than standing up to her. How they'd created this dynamic where I was expected to be the responsible one who never needed anything, and she was the special one who deserved everything. "They're still doing it," she said. "Last week, Mom suggested you might reconsider giving us the condo as a first anniversary gift. I told her to stop, that it was inappropriate and I didn't want it. She acted like I'd betrayed her. Before we parted, she said, I know we can't just fix everything with one coffee. You have every right to be angry with me. But I'd like to try to have a real relationship with you. Not the one where you're the stable provider and I'm the needy princess, but an actual adult sibling relationship." I told her I'd like that too, but it would take time. She understood. Final update, 8 months later. It's been 2 months since that coffee with my sister, and I wanted to give one last update about how things have evolved. My sister and her husband are still living with his parents, which has been humbling for her in ways she's shared with me during our monthly coffee meetings, a tradition we started after that first reconciliation. She's been promoted at work, partly because she's now putting the same obsessive energy into her job that she used to put into maintaining appearances. Her husband started a side business doing freelance marketing, and they're on track to pay off half the wedding debt by their first anniversary. The relationship with our parents remains complicated. After my sister told them to stop asking me about the condo, they've shifted tactics. Now it's guilt about tearing the family apart, and lamenting how their children don't appreciate them. My sister and I have started comparing notes, and it's actually brought us closer. Having someone else validate that the dynamics aren't normal has been therapeutic for both of us. Last month, something unexpected happened. My grandmother, the one family member I hadn't blocked, passed away. At the funeral, the extended family's cold treatment of me was obvious. But my sister stayed by my side, and when an aunt made a snide comment about family who doesn't help family, my sister spoke up. "He helped me more by saying no than any of you did by enabling my worst impulses," she said clearly. The aunt huffed away, but I saw my father watching us with something like recognition in his eyes. After the funeral, as we were going through some of grandmother's things she'd left to us grandchildren, we found a letter addressed to both of us. In it, she admitted she knew about the condo situation and regretted getting involved. She wrote, "I let my own fears about family conflict cloud my judgment. Your brother's boundaries were not cruel, they were necessary. I hope you both can build something better than what we gave you." My sister cried reading it. "Even Grandma could see it eventually," she said. The biggest development came last week. My sister called me excitedly. They'd been approved for a small apartment. Nothing fancy, a one-bedroom in a decent neighborhood, but it would be theirs. Well, rented, but still. She was genuinely proud in a way I'd never heard before. "We did it ourselves," she kept saying. "No one bailed us out, no one gifted us anything. We worked and saved and qualified on our own merits." At their housewarming, a small gathering with beer and pizza, nothing like her usual parties, her husband pulled me aside. "I never thanked you properly," he said, "for not giving in. We would have taken that condo and learned nothing. We'd probably be divorced within 2 years, crushed under expectations and resentment. This way is harder, but it's real." My parents didn't come to the housewarming. They're still processing what my mother calls the new family dynamic, where she can't orchestrate everyone's lives. My father has started reaching out occasionally, usually about practical things like home maintenance or investment advice. It's his way of trying, I think. My sister and I talk weekly now, real conversations about work stress, relationship challenges, our struggles with the family patterns we're trying to break. She's shown me her budget spreadsheets, proud of every debt payment. I've shared my own fears about setting boundaries and the guilt that sometimes creeps in. Last week, she sent me a photo from her therapy session homework, a list of toxic family patterns to break. Number 1 was, expecting others to sacrifice their stability for your choices. Number 2 was, using emotional manipulation instead of honest communication. She'd written in the margin, "Thanks for showing me what the alternative looks like." The condo that started all this? I'm still here, still paying my mortgage, still building my life. The second bedroom I supposedly didn't need? It's now a home office where I run a side consulting business that's taking off. The stability my parents thought I should sacrifice? It's allowed me to take professional risks that have paid off tremendously. But the biggest gain isn't financial. It's the discovery that family relationships can be rebuilt on healthier foundations, that saying no can be the most loving thing you do, and that sometimes the best gift you can give someone is the opportunity to grow up. My sister said something during our last coffee that stuck with me. "I spent so long trying to be the main character in everyone's story that I forgot to be the author of my own." We're both still learning, still growing, still untangling years of dysfunction. But we're doing it as equals now, as adults who've chosen to break the cycle rather than perpetuate it. And that $350,000 condo they wanted me to give away? It turned out to be worth so much more as the boundary that changed everything. The wedding photos are still on social media, frozen in time. The perfect day that nearly destroyed multiple relationships and financial futures. My sister hasn't taken them down, but she added a caption recently, "Beautiful day, expensive lessons." Growth isn't always Instagram-worthy, but it's real. That's where we are now. Not perfect, not fully healed, but honest. And for the first time in our adult lives, my sister and I are building a relationship based on mutual respect rather than assigned roles. The condo is still mine, their debt is still theirs, but what we're building together, this new understanding, this break from generational patterns, that's ours to share. Our parents may never understand why I couldn't just help out, why maintaining boundaries mattered more than keeping peace. But my sister does now. And sometimes, the most profound act of love is refusing to enable someone's destructive patterns, even when everyone tells you you're wrong for doing so. The text chain with extended family has finally gone quiet. The flying monkeys have retreated. The drama has settled into the mundane work of actual growth and change. It's not as photogenic as a 300-person wedding, but it's infinitely more valuable. And my 2-bedroom condo? It's still my sanctuary, my accomplishment, my foundation for the future. Just as it always should have been.